Welcome to part 1 of the IACP Tier Rankings Reveal Show. My name is Christopher Emmick, and I'm a member of the Steering Committee for the IA Continuity Project. If you've seen videos on IA Command before, you're probably aware of the IACP and how we change existing cards and create new cards for skirmish play in the game Imperial Assault. We're celebrating our 2-year anniversary by having our community rank all of the changes that we've made in our past playtesting and design seasons. In this video, I reveal the community's ratings for Season 1 with a panel of fellow Steering Committee members, Jake Petersen, Oliver Dewhurst, and Jesse Betz. Enjoy! In our survey, we had about 24 responses, or exactly 24 responses, and we asked our players to rate the cards on a specific tier list. You should see the tier over here on the tier maker screen, and each tier is in decreasing value. And so for the S tier, these are the best of the best. So they are expected to be in competitive lists that make top cuts and championship matches. In the A tier, we have strong cards that make an impact in competitive lists. In B tier, these are cards that can be good in certain situations, but is rarely seen in competitive lists. In the C tier, these are cards that struggle against lists made of stronger cards, but can still be fun or interesting to play. And then we have the D tier, or as the Gold Squadron podcast calls it, the dumpster tier, where the card is just not powerful enough or just not fun enough to play. So you are being joined by a conglomerate of members of the IACP Steering Committee. We have all gotten up, we've brushed our teeth, eaten our cereal, and we are here to present these cards to you and talk about the ratings. I will start with Jake and have everybody introduce themselves. Go ahead, Jake.
Hello, everyone. My name's Jake. I'm a founding member of the Steering Committee. Been around since the beginning, so I'm very curious to see what the community has to say about all our work going back.
And Ollie.
Hi, I'm Ollie. I joined back end of Season 3, so you can't blame me for the rubbish early stuff.
Also, somebody you can't blame is Jesse. Go ahead, Jesse.
Hi, I'm Jesse.
When did you join the committee, Jesse?
I don't remember.
I think it was about the same time as Ollie.
A lifetime ago.
Yes, and Jesse's well known for being a IACP and Imperial Assault community organizer on the West Coast, and has just a great feel for card design and organized play. And then my name is Christopher Emmick. I'm one of the founding members of the Steering Committee, and has been a real pain in the butt to everybody. So and I'm happy to be here. So so we are now going to start into our cards. So in Season 1, the very first thing that we did, the Steering Committee wanted to kind of go slow and try mostly point changes. So most of these cards are going to be just point changes. Jake, why don't you take BT1?
Sure. Well, I don't think we're going to be saying the entire card for these guys. Otherwise, this will be a 5-hour video. So BT1 is the Hunter, Droid, and Imperial who really didn't have a place to be, but had the power to be put into a list if you had a few extra points. But he wasn't worth his 6 points. Most of the time, people were taking him with targeting computer, giving him 7 points. Just wasn't worth it. So we dropped him from 6 to 5.
So Jake, tell us where you would put BT in your tier list.
Personally, I had him as B tier, where he's good, he's powerful, but isn't top tier generally worth putting him in if it's in the right list. So with a hunter list, generally, it's pretty popular to see him thrown in with the last Jawa scavenger slot into a scum hunter list.
Mm-hmm. Ollie, Jesse, any objections?
I think I agree. Maybe A tier, but he's sort of on the borderline between the two. He can be strong, but he's not got amazing surges for a hunter, so he's just okay at 5 points.
Yeah, the problem that I've had has been he rolls 4 dice, but because it's a rainbow roll, it's so wildly inconsistent, and then he has no surges for additional damage. So you either have like a really great roll with it or a really cruddy roll with it. And then missile salvo being just 2 dice attacks that you can only manipulate with like hunter cards. There's really not a whole lot of heavy weapon cards that can go into, or droid cards really, that manipulate and make those attacks a lot better. You just don't, like, for 5 points you get a lot of value out of him, but you don't get primary attacker value out of him. And so I always thought that he straddled the A to B tier. Jesse, any thoughts?
He's solidly A tier when your opponent is nice enough to group 3 squishy figures for him.
That's true. Because IACP hates 3-figure trooper groups, we are nerfing BT1 because of that. So once we finally get off our high horse about the about the 3-figure groups. Actually, that's slight spoilers. That's something that we always talk about. We're always looking at ways to make the 3-figure trooper deployments better, and eventually we're gonna take another stab at it, I think. So we've got solidly B across the board from the committee here, but survey says it is an A tier card. So
all right.
So, and to give you kind of an idea how close this is, I took all the respondents' entries and I gave them a score. So if somebody rated a car S tier, then that was a 4-point score. And if it's A tier, it was 3 points. If it's B tier, it was 2 points. And if it was C tier, they got 1 point. And then so I summed up all those scores and took the average. And I decided that the average, if it's above like 3.5, then it would be an S tier average card. And then so if it's above 2.5, it would be an A tier average card. And BT1's average score here is 2.667. So he just slides above that 2.5 line there. So he's closer to the edge of A to B, like we were kind of getting at. But he is the community feels that he is solidly A now. All right. So moving on, our next card is going to be the Stormtrooper. Hey, Ollie, why don't you take...
Speaking of 3 points deployment.
Yes. Ollie, why don't you take this card?
So 3-figure deployment group, drop down to 7 points. They're okay attackers, and decent numbers you can get on the board, but I'd probably never take it. Partially down to bad experiences of trying to take a Stormtrooper swarm at UK Nationals a few years ago. And partially because they're just going to struggle to get through defense nowadays. So personally don't think elite Stormtroopers are great, but if they're against another Stormtrooper list, they'll be brilliant.
All right. What was the change that we made to him? What was the change that we made to him?
We dropped them from 9 to 7.
Right. So the overall cost from 9 to 7, but they remain that 3-figure point cost. So Ollie, where would you slot them in?
A D or C, probably.
Ooh,
maybe a C. They can be fun to play, but I don't think they're good enough to make B tier.
Jake,
I'll put them solidly at C tier. I definitely started playing IA with an elite Stormtrooper list, and there's some sentimentality there, and I definitely have played these guys at 7.
Yeah, I would put them into a solid. I would put them into. I think if I had to choose between C and B, I would say C. But if I could give them a C plus, I would do so. The reason I say that is because one, sentimentality. I played an elite Stormtrooper list at the first Worlds against 4x4 with Kane Somos, and then I remember in season 2 when Kane Somos was a thing. When we had Kane Somos, I believe that was season 2. Whenever we had Kane Somos in the season, I saw them played with Kane, and a Stormtrooper group against non-enhanced defenses can do rock solid damage. I had my elite probe droid, 7 health, black die, killed in 1 activation by a group of Stormtroopers. They can pump out the damage against non-queen figures or against figures without innate defenses. So I would give them C plus.
Yeah, I don't disagree on the they can pump out damage. Just there's a lot of units nowadays that do have an innate defense, and they don't really have for it.
Yeah, we've definitely amped up personal defense, and of course, Imperial has always had Zillow technique and extra armor to buff up defense of its units, or even like Stormtroopers versus another Imperial list is so tough to get damage through. However,
what do we think of Lion Ambush Stormtroopers? Or is that for a different video?
No, this is this is a good time to discuss that, because when we're rating tier lists, we should consider all possibilities.
Because that'll let you get into the meaty backside of your opponent, get all their support figures, which Stormtroopers would excel at killing.
Yep, Stormtroopers should be pretty good at killing those.
Little anti-thematic that Stormtroopers would sneak up on anybody, but that would definitely increase their usability with Lion Ambush.
White armor blends right in Bespin, at least.
They did sneak in. No one saw them coming except C-3PO, and then they killed him. So,
the other thing that we really haven't seen much of in our season 5 list, we have remade the generals' ranks, and I believe almost all of our test data involves troopers or heavy weapons that are not Stormtroopers. It's usually the 2-figure deployment groups that take the general's ranks, and so that's I think also an indication of how difficult it is to maximize the effectiveness of Stormtroopers. And again, that's something that people want. Throughout the entire process of the IACP, we've been told to make these 3-figure units a little bit better, and so we've tried with one of the cards that is on this list called Suppressive Fire and some other things, and so hopefully we're going to be able to take another stab at it. However, the survey says our community feels like the Stormtroopers are B tier. Gentlemen, your thoughts on that?
I'm out of touch with the community.
What was the number score on that? Because is this another one where it was on the border between B and C?
Very close, yes. The border between B and C is 1.5, and the Elite Stormtroopers scored a 1.667.
Yep. So it's the same thing as BT1 then, where it's very close to the line, and the community put them a little bit higher than we did, but in the same range.
Mm-hmm. All right. Moving on. Our next card is going to be the Elite Sentry Droid. Jesse, won't you introduce the Elite Sentry Droid changes?
Sure. We took the Elite Sentry Droid down from 10 points to 9 points. And I think one of the biggest draws of this card is their multi-fire ability. You get to do 2 attacks, but at -1 damage. They're one of the few figures that can pull off 2 attacks natively that aren't named Skywalker.
And they have go ahead.
Oh yeah, they're definitely something that I've seen like General Soren run, and I remember JK ran a list with these guys at one point, and he was just very excited to get them to pump out damage, and he seemed to have the ability to pick exactly which mode he needed every time. It was like, oh, I need to shoot these 2 people, or I need to shoot that one person because splitting fire is not going to help me.
Honestly, I think Sentry Droids are one of the great success stories of the first season, where they were always good, but they were just a little bit over where they needed to be. So just dropping them the 1 point. Sentry Droids have been a going concern in every season since season 1. So I'd say that that's a solid success story for IACP.
I agree. So, Jesse, where would you put the Sentry Droids on our tier list?
Ooh, can I say somewhere between B and A?
Yeah. And why?
They're definitely an example of a unit that when you learn how to play it, you get a lot better with it. So I can see a lot of people haven't used it, saying, "Oh, it's a B tier unit," but a lot of people that really have figured out what they can do with it, they're going to say it's A tier. So I'm betting the number's going to come in at that 0.667.
Okay.
Are we going with what we think the community voted, or are we going with what our personal tier ranking is? Because I would put them solidly in A tier. If you know, and like Jesse said, if you know how to use them, it can make a huge impact on a match, which you would hope to get from a 9-point group. But yeah, they have the power, they have the flexibility, and so I think that they're solid A tier figures.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Chris. I was going to say I'd agree on the A tier. I don't think I'd say quite as strong as the two of you, but perhaps the bottom end of A tier, if that makes sense. As like you say, if you know how to use them, they're great. They're just very easy to mess up.
And the fact that they are easy to mess up is where I probably put them on the B tier. Right now, there's just not enough damage output between the droid and the trooper traits that make me feel like a 9-point investment into one deployment of these guys will really pump out enough damage. Yes, you can, if you know how to play them and you know how to utilize them, like you can, with the targeting computer, you can snipe from a surprising distance away. And the multi-fire late game, if you can get one of your droids like kind of back in the fleshy part of your opponent's list with their leaders, that multi-fire will make a massive difference. But in my experience, they have just been this close to being worth 5 points per figure. And because they're just this close still, my personal opinion is that they're B. And yes, this is our show, so it's our opinions that we're talking about here, not the communities. Well, we are talking about the communities, but we are talking about our opinions first, and then we will reveal the communities. Okay? All right. Speaking of the community, it's time for them to have their say. and they say B tier. Their score is very, very close to A tier. Very close. The line is 2.5. The Elite Sentry droids were 2.417.
All right.
All right.
And I think Jesse had good analysis there that if a lot of people might not have the personal experience to put them into A tier if they didn't put in the practice.
You know, there's several figures in IACP that are like that. The biggest one, just even from the FFG meta, is Greedo. If you haven't played a lot of IA, you look at Greedo and like, oh man, he sucks. Why would you ever put this creature in a list, or this figure in a list? And then you have somebody run Greedo against you, and you're like, aha, I got it. I just died a lot.
Okay. S tier.
S tier, yes. Greedo is S tier.
EIA. Greedo is awesome.
All right.
It looks like I'm up next or Chris is up on the rotation. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, it's my turn. So I will take Gamorean Guards. All right, let me pull up the Gamorean Guards here.
Piggies.
Piggies.
Get a ham sandwich.
Click, 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 click. There they are. All right. All right, Gamorean Guards. The change that we made in Season 1 was to reduce their deployment costs from 8 to 7. We kept their abilities the same and their figure cost the same. You know, this is another one of those units where there's potential, but it's not. It's really hard to utilize. You know, reach helps a lot with these guys. Having the 2 red die attacks are really great against white die defenders. But you can even with the reroll, there's times where not having an ability to, or not being able to roll surges for extra damage comes back to kind of bite them in the butt. During Season 1, when we released this change, there really hadn't been much changes to what we've done with Brawlers and Guardians. Since Season 1, we've released some new Brawler and Guardian cards that have, I think, kind of helped increase the playability of these guys. But they're still just, you know, it's difficult to run a protective list in Mercenary. You know, most of your Mercenary lists are angled towards their strengths, which is like victory point manipulation, hunters, things die quickly. And the Gamorean Guards just don't fit into those things. I think I put them at C tier myself. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
Tier.
You cut off there, Jake.
Just
say it again.
Straight up. I said just straight up D tier. Yeah, well, I think me personally, they're D tier. I don't like I've ran them before, but they just never during FFG, during IACP, they just never did what I wanted them to do. I'm sure Joey Clooney the Mad would disagree, but he is also a wizard with melee lists, so I'll let him have them in there in B tier. For me, they're D tier.
I gotta say, as one of the like 2 figures that have innate reach, that's something you need on a melee character to really throw it off, especially if you're going to swing twice, throw that command card for 2 actions to swing twice, and to have cleave on them with reach. I think that's decent. I'll go C tier.
Yeah, they don't have a reliable way of getting the cleave is my issue with them. I very low end C tier if they make C tier at all. If you give them a defense token and a surge token, maybe they're a bit closer. But on their own, probably a D tier.
All right. So, looking at the survey results, we have consensus from the community, C tier. And very close to actually getting into B tier. The cutoff line for B tier is 1.5, and the Elite Gamoreans scored a 1.4.
Question: did you give D tier 1? If somebody ranked it D, would it be 1 or 0?
0.
0. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So the C tier cutoff is 0.5.
Okay.
All right. Next up is the Grand Inquisitor, Senior Jake. That is you.
The Grand Inquisitor is a very fun villain from the Rebels TV show. He was not very fun in original FFG Imperial Assault. So seeing as that is the case, he was just overcosted for what he did, so we dropped him from 9 points to 7. So at 7 points, he actually is one of the few figures in the game to break the magical 2x health to cost barrier with 15 health for 7 points, which actually makes him an outlier in the game defensively, but that's still not enough to get him to common play. He's very fun as an Imperial Hunter, which now that we've put out a few more of them over time, specifically with Mara getting an Imperial Hunter Force user, so he's been seeing a little bit more play lately. But I still put him in a solid C tier, where he's not going to be making a huge impact unless if he's going up against an A, B, or S tier list.
Alrighty. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Agree with Jake. He's good for 7 points, but not going to be top tier. His dice pools are just not strong enough offensively. And you say he's got a good ratio of health to point cost. He still dies very quickly, even with that. But he is a lot of fun to run around throwing his lightsaber all over the show. So I think C tier is fair.
I gotta say, being able to remove dodges is very, very good. So I'll see B tier. We'll see what happens. And my dog agrees.
I'm actually going to go with Jesse here and put him in B tier, because I think that at his price point, you can run him with another heavy, like we haven't seen a whole lot of Grand Inquisitor with Vader, because most people would just rather put those points into Palp. But I think there's real play with, instead of Vader Palp Thrawn, trying Vader Palp Grand Inquisitor, because you're gonna have the Grand Inquisitor being able to kind of ambush on the side, and once he gets in, red, yellow, green is gonna do some stuff, and then as when your opponents collapse on Darth, or if they then you can just run in melee, or if they're still kind of maintaining your distance, you still have the lightsaber throw to do something during your turn. And if you're going in with Grand Inquisitor, Palp, and Vader, then there are some pretty decent dark side cards that the Grand Inquisitor can use to kind of amplify what he does. Now, is this something that we would ever see in a tournament, in competitive play? I don't think so, but I think it's a lot of fun, and I think that you could you can do more with the Grand Inquisitor in those kind of lists than you would with like somebody like the Gamorean Guards. So if you compare him to the Gamorean Guards, I think he's B.
Well, I mean, if you compare anybody to the Gamorean Guards, they're gonna move up a tier. I actually like that list, that archetype that you just said. Except the problem is that Vader, Palp, Thrawn, and Maul exists.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying that we would. I don't think that we would see that like at a maximum competitive capacity, but I think there's a place for the Grand Inquisitor as we continue supporting that Vader gameplay.
All right, get more Sith Lords up, or Sith semi-Sith up in here.
More Inquisitors.
So far, there's still only So, what did the community have to say about our friend, the Grand Inquisitor?
The Grand
they ever
Inquisitor.
revealed what name he went by as a Jedi, at least in the show. So,
yeah.
I like that they kept that as a mystery.
Yeah, the community actually put the Grand Inquisitor at B tier.
So Jake and I are just the big pessimists then.
Get off my lawn, damn it!
I can get the argument. He is a lot of fun to play, and if you get a bit lucky with dice, he absolutely earns 7 points for you.
Yeah, the community, the score that the community gave them, the average tier score that I was talking about, is 1.913. So that's solidly in between the cutoffs between A tier and C tier. Or B tier and C tier, yeah. All right, next card is the Rancor. Ollie, would you please tell us about the Rancor?
I like Rancors in IA. So we dropped the cost of the Rancor from 10 points to 9 points, but otherwise didn't make any changes. And the Rancor always has had a problem in that he either doesn't do enough damage or takes in too much damage to survive the damage that you want to put out. Because obviously you want to keep him with the 2 defense dice at all times, but you also want brutality to get both surges off. To get 2 attacks out of him. What I still find whenever I run a Rancor before or after the change is the Rancor essentially becomes a big old distraction Rancor to have absorb all your enemy's shots. And for 9 points, I don't know if that's worth it. He's on the borderline, I think, for how much health he needs. So I think on balance of all of that, I'd probably say he's a C tier. And they're a bit more creature support though now, so maybe he's starting to drift towards B.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree with that. I think the big problem with him is if he's supposed to be a distraction, then he needs to live long enough to be a distraction and be threatening enough to be a distraction. And with his attack pool, even with reach, even with some of the cool massive cards, he just doesn't threaten enough. And then if you don't run him in, if you try to like play ambush Rancor, then he can still get chipped away from distance because he's so big. There's just so many good ranged units in the game now that, even with him rolling 2 black dice, he still takes too much damage.
Having said all of that, though, nothing is more fun than getting 6 attacks out of a Rancor in 1 round.
I completely agree with that, yes.
7, actually, because you can get rid of the stun and do 2 parting blows.
Jesse, your thoughts?
Are you including ferocity in that?
Yeah. So you do to limit and single purpose to do 2 brutalities. If you've used Beast Tamer to move in, you can do a normal attack after you to limit. I think you do an attack brutality to limit single purpose brutality. If you use Wild Fury, so you can get multiple in one activation. You step on someone, so you get a parting blow from that. You use worth every credit to get rid of the stun, and then you use looking for a fight to push another guy to get another parting blow.
And then ferocity at the end.
And then ferocity at the end of the round.
So, you know, if you happen to have all 5 command cards that you need...
Yes. He's an A tier then.
He is A tier. So that's going to be the Season 6 change. Rancor special card. You start with all these cards in your hand.
Yes.
Jesse, your thoughts?
Ooh. Every time I've seen someone play a Rancor, that Rancor died immediately. Like he's basically the equivalent of a jump scare. You know, I'm full of blaster bolts.
Well put. The only time that I've ever seen a Rancor not die immediately is when they have went full in on defense for the Rancor. So like extra armor, extra defense cards. And when a Rancor survives past the 3rd round, it's an exceptional day. And even then, the Rancor still didn't do enough because all the defense cards.
I could lie in ambush, then it would be.
Yeah.
Then it would be a real jump scare.
As it is, it has to actually approach and get filled with blaster bolts.
I saw Luke Sykes take a Rancor to top 8 at Euros, I think.
Really?
Years ago. Yeah.
But it's Luke Sykes, so...
Yes.
So basically what we're saying is...
if you are exceptional...
Yes. Go ahead, Jake.
Just to say, if you give an exceptional chef a shit sandwich, they're going to make it pretty good, but it's still a shit sandwich in the end.
I'm looking forward to the forthcoming change where we declare this Rancor the regular Rancor and then release an elite Rancor.
Oh. Okay, one, a regular Rancor would really mess up campaign. Really, really mess up campaign. 2...
None of these are technically in for campaign. Although I'm sure if people wanted to, they're probably balanced for it, generally.
Yeah. Anyway, survey says the same thing that we're all saying. It's C tier. It's so much fun to play a Rancor, but you just don't get anything out of it. It's all grand ideas and no output. And also, we're going to rename our project IAPG thanks to the language of this broadcast. Poop fart hell. Don't worry, guys. It's cool. I just thought it was funny. I just thought of a funny joke. That's all. All right. Next up, we have Shyla Varad. Jesse, could you tell us about Shyla?
All right. Our Shyla is 1 point less. Instead of 8, she is 7. And I believe that's the only change.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I have run Shyla on the table before, in a list with Gamorean Guards of all things. So I guess that doesn't speak well to my decision making, but she is fun, and being able to move figures, especially at the time when Jabba's palace is a thing, so you can just quietly scoot Luke Skywalker into the Rancor pit. That was good fun. So I'll give her a B.
Gentlemen,
I
think
it'd be solid.
I've been playing her a lot recently with the Emperor with motivation to get her into position for Emperor attacks. She's pretty fun. I'll agree with B.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I ran her when she originally came out in Jabba's realm, and hits very hard if you get good dice out of her. The extra movement points is nice. Whipping's nice. So yeah, B. Not quite enough damage or survivability to make herself into A, though I don't think there's other better options at that point range if you're going for competitive.
Yeah, the I think it was, what was it? Daniel Taylor ran her and won a regular IA championship, world championship with her. Is that right, Jake?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, maybe? I don't remember his 2017 list because they were all the same in 2017.
Yeah, and when the very first, I think the very first Jabba's Realm.
2017 was the Hunter Worlds.
Yeah.
2017 was the Hunter Worlds. I don't remember whose lists made like the top 8 because all the lists were the same. I think there might have been one Luke Rangers in top 8. Otherwise, it was Scum Hunters, and they all had the same, the same general list of figures.
Right. I thought the only thing that was different was DT's Shyla play, because I remember there was like some clutch Shyla play where he had pulled somebody in and got the winning kill with Shyla. But I may be wrong. I'm old. Yeah, I agree with everybody. She's B tier. A lot of fun to play. Can be utilized pretty well thanks to her die pool and the Hunter card. We've made Brawler a little bit better, but not so much better that you would see her regularly in mercenary lists. And the community agrees with us. They put Shyla in B tier as well. And the score that they gave her was 2.130. So that is solidly B.
I don't think she benefits from all of the Brawler changes because she can't use Part and Blow as effectively as the other guys.
Well, I think Feint helps her from this season.
Just having more Brawlers in the game in general just makes it so it's easier to bring her, get that critical mass.
Yeah, I was thinking like more of like the Trandoshan Hunters match up better with her now that we've made them better in season 4 or 5. I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, next up is Maul. Oh boy, this is going to be a fun one, and I'm taking it.
So are you talking about him with or without Darksaber? Because that massively changes the tier ranking.
So we instructed our community we instructed our community to consider each card with every other possible card that it could be paired up with. So yes, Maul.
Okay.
Maul is considered to be
very easy.
Yes. So yeah, in season 1, we dropped Maul's cost from 7 points to 6 points and left everything else the same. Our community thought that was fine. Maul didn't really register. We kept going. And then in season 4, we introduced a card called the Darksaber that Maul can take along with Sabine Wren, and it drastically increases his ability on the board. We have seen in season 4 and season 5 a significant shift towards a Maul meta because he brings so much value now on the board with the Darksaber. He is clearly S tier in my opinion. Gentlemen, do you agree?
What's higher than S tier? Broken? Because he's broken.
Now, Jake. We already did our surveys with what things were overpowered or not.
I don't care. I will gladly be alone. I will gladly be correct alone.
Jesse.
So on this limited tier list, he's S. On the real tier list, he's broken.
Okay, Jesse, do you agree?
No. I'll stay S instead of S plus.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had an entire Built on Hope podcast about Maul where I very extensively went into my arguments. So everybody go listen to that so we don't turn this into a 5-hour video of 4 hours of me ranting about Maul.
All right. So
it's one of the major
it
reasons
appears
we have more
Ollie-
than one person on the steering committee, right? So we can get this multitude of viewpoints.
that's right. That's exactly right.
Multitude, you said?
Multitude of viewpoints, yes. Jake telling us that we're wrong, and all of us being comfortable being wrong.
Yes.
Just point out, I agree with Jake. He is broken.
So, our community actually put him at A tier. Now, I don't know if this is because they missed out on the instructions or not, but he is very close to S tier in the composite score. Again, S tier is supposed to be above 3.5. He scored a 3.33.
Okay.
So the community does not think he's broken enough, Jake.
The community, like I said, I'm perfectly fine being correct alone.
All right.
So I'm not alone. Go Ollie.
Okay, next up is Kanan. Kanan Jarrus. Jake,
That
will
is
you
one of my
talk-
guys here.
Yes, he is.
Right, so in Season 1, we noticed that Kanan, outside of Spectre Cell, was not seeing much play. The Jedi list just wasn't there in Season 1. He kind of got there in Season 3. We'll get to that later. So we dropped him from 8 points to 7. I think he's solidly good there. And also dropping him means that in the first season, we actually had banned Spectre Cell outright. But in the second season, after FFG nerfed it, he brought it back in, and in the in Season 2 and beyond. So now, his points drop means that that Spectre Cell altogether is 38 points, and you can bring 2 points of upgrades. I think that factors into his thing because Spectre Cell now is decent, but not as a solid B+ tier list. I think Kanan on his own and where he plays best is Jedi lists, obviously. There, he's a solid B tier. I think he's not the cornerstone of the list, but he always does well there. So I'm going to be comfortable calling him a B tier figure overall.
Jesse, your thoughts?
Yeah, Kanan's solid B tier. I think he's a B stands for buff, right? Given
Yes.
the defensive rerolls.
Yes. Ollie.
Yeah, I think I agree. B tier, he solid unit, doesn't ever sort of win a game on his own, but he helps everyone else.
All right. How about we go ahead and combine this with the Spectre Cell since Jake brought it up, and then we can knock out 2 cards at once here. Again, the Spectre Cell really wasn't per se changed in IACP except through the Kanan point cost. So, Ollie, do you think Spectre Cell is stronger? What tier would you put Spectre Cell in now that you've got 2 points to play with instead of 1?
I'd probably say it's on the borderline between A and B. It's no longer broken tier like Maul is. It's it can still do a job because it's still got the strange ability with the move and attack for every figure in there. You've still got Ezra, who's dumb. You've still got Kanan, who helps keep Ezra alive. Zeb is okay. And Sabine is obviously still stupidly, well, not broken, but I don't like Sabine. And too many grenades. And yeah, I think it does maybe struggle a little bit against lists that have got a lot of firepower because it can't save itself like it used to back in end of FFG days. But it's it's there or thereabouts for so we say low end competitive lists. It nearly there but not quite. So A-ish.
So you're gonna put Spectre Cell in A-ish?
A-ish, yes.
Okay, Jesse.
I think poor Spectre Cell suffers from being a problem. When we had a Worlds where everyone ran it, where you had how it was the only list for about a year plus.
Lothcats.
No.
Shout out to David Gow.
Yeah. There's a very solid Spectre fatigue where no one is going to want to bring that back for the groans it'll cause. I think it is perfectly acceptable A-tier card, just no one's running it.
Mm-hmm.
Good reason. Some scars just don't heal.
That was a very. What was funny about that Worlds is that everybody was impacted by Spectre Cell, and we came together as a community over the wounds. It almost brought us closer together because of Spectre Cell. Now, personally, I am a big Spectre Cell fan. I love the playstyle of it. I love that you can tap a card and get an extra little bit of oomph in attack out of a six-figure, an individual six-figure list. After that Worlds, Spectre Cell was still one of the favorite lists that I love to play. But after the nerf, it was heavily impacted. I think right now I would put Spectre Cell in B tier because you're still not getting enough, not just defensive, it being able to save itself defensively, but you're not getting enough offense either. Not having that +1 damage to every attack really hurts the list. Because there would be times where you could run up Chopper and do like a slam with Chopper or whatever it's called, and then attack with Chopper and finish something off that your opponent had no idea that you could do. Now, if we ever get around to fixing Zeb, then I could see where Spectre Cell might jump back up to A tier, but right now it's B. Kanan, I actually think, is A. And the reason why I think Kanan is A tier is because we have seen in Season 4, basically since the introduction of Yoda, a lot of Rebel Force user lists, and almost all of them sit around having Kanan as that defensive foundation. Keeping all of their Force users near Kanan so that they can re-roll all their bad defensive rolls, and whenever they add a die with not with the new the modified knowledge and defense, that increases the survivability of those Jedi lists by a lot, and it makes those Jedi lists really competitive, in my opinion. So I actually would put Kanan in A tier. However, our community seems to think Kanan is a B tier figure, and also feels that Spectre Cell is B tier. Any thoughts on that, gentlemen?
I don't think that disagrees with anything we've said, really. They were all sort of on the fence with them between A and B, so I can understand where the community's coming from on those.
Yep. Okay, let's move on to the next card. So it was Ahsoka Tano Ali. Will you tell us about lovely Ahsoka?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we dropped her from 8 points to 7. And I think she's probably a B tier figure as a result of that. So she was always on the edge of competitive lists at 8 points in the last days of FFG. She still was able to do her stupid long darts in, do a decent attack, and if you've got initiative going your way, get out again. She's still able to do that. It's just her attack doesn't hit quite as hard as it did in the past. But she's 7 points now. Force user spy, solid I think for her cost. Just not cutting edge. So I think B.
Yeah, it seems like, especially in the Rebel faction, having these unique figures at that 7-point cost is just really enables play with them. So I personally thought that she was B tier before the price change, and this pushed her up closer to A. But we don't really see, like, outside of the Jedi list that I was talking about earlier. We really don't see any inclusion of her as a flanker like we did when she was first released. So I'm willing to concede and call it a B.
It's I think just from the fact that we don't, just a general B, and there's better. I think there's probably more options for flankers or more or additional people in the box list where we used to see her with Han and Drakata. But there's other options for those lists now, so now she's been dropped down into solid B.
I'll agree with B tier until we release the 1-point attachment as played by Rosario Dawson.
Well, we have plenty of runway now with all these new shows, so we may have to make an attachment if she shows us something new. So,
or a brand new card. Like, we'll have to see what she's getting her own show, so I think there's going to be plenty to work with.
Yes, very much so. All right. Our community put her at A tier. And just barely over the line for A tier. So the line is 2.5. She scored a 2.739. Gentlemen, your thoughts on that?
I'm surprised she scored that highly, but I don't think she's a bad figure by any means. It's just she's difficult to use, so I a bit of a surprise. But the community seems to be more positive than we do.
Right. I mean, within Jedi list, she's really good, and she still has some good utility if you were to put her into a Rebel spy list. So I'm okay with that. I think it's just
one of the few figures. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. One of the few figures
I was going to say she's one of the few figures who can keep up with Ezra.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Next up is Luke Skywalker, the Hero of the Rebellion card. Jesse, could you tell us about Luke, or Farm Boy Luke?
Farm Boy Luke. He's got the biggest point drop of any time we dropped points, right?
Pretty much, other than like the ATST or something?
Season 1 ATST got the same point drop, or was it season 2 that we dropped ATST? Yeah, so season 2 ATST got the same drop, but then season 5 ATST has a bigger drop, but we haven't. Oh wait! Royal Guard champion, 15 to 10.
Yep.
Gets a bigger drop.
Okay, well he needed it for Joey.
Did.
So 3 points down from 10 to 7, and I had a friend who introduced me to the game of Imperial Assault, and he would constantly run this Luke Skywalker against me. Play Luke Skywalker's command card and get that extra turn. There was one game I played specifically where he managed to run through his entire command deck, play Son of Skywalker, then put it back with Leia, and then draw it with R2 and play it again against me.
Wonder Twins.
Oh, God.
It was actually a pretty good list back in 2016 Worlds.
Yeah, I have particular PTSD against any Luke, but honestly, taking him as a buff figure at 7 points for the reroll for everyone around him, I think would be fun. and I could see that being something enjoyable. So I'm going to give him a B tier.
Jake, your thoughts?
I think he's the problem with Hero Luke is that he can't be in the same list as Jedi Luke. So if you're going to put in one Luke Skywalker, it might as well be Jedi Luke. So just the existence of Jedi Luke, who could make better use of Son of Skywalker, drops him from B where he might be into C tier for me personally.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Is the Son of Skywalker is a trap card for Hero Luke. You don't get that much value out of that extra activation with Hero Luke, except in certain situations. Most of the time when you use Son of Skywalker, you're going to want that. You're going to dash in and you're going to play Son of Skywalker and get that extra attack and get out. But with Hero Luke's attacks, they're just not that great. The fact that Inspiring doesn't apply to himself is a major hang-up for me. So to me, he's C tier. Now, go ahead.
Back in Worlds 2016, when he was running up mostly against Stormtrooper swarms, and he had a decent shot of taking a Stormtrooper off the board, then Son of Skywalker was a lot better. But now, with a lot more Queen figures, with a lot more figures that don't have 5 health behind a black die, he's just not as good anymore. He doesn't have as many targets that he can one-shot.
And looking at him as like a hybrid support figure, the rerolls are great, but you're paying so much for it. It's almost like you just rather put like targeting computer on the group that you would rather have the rerolls for, or something else. Ollie, your thoughts?
Right.
Yeah, I think I agree with what yourself and Jake are saying there. It's a good ability, the reroll bubble. It's only a little bit better than Hera, though, I think, and he costs 3 points more. His attack is a little bit better than Hera's, but not massively so. I don't see B personally. Son of Skywalker, as you say, isn't really useful on him because he's not going to finish off a Vader by doing it. But you know, he might get a Stormtrooper or something with 3 or 4 health left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't even considered that in a world where Hera exists, there's not really much point to take Hero Luke anymore.
Okay, so our community breaks with us here and actually puts him at B tier. Thoughts on this, gentlemen?
They agree with Jesse.
I think that just goes with the general the general trend here, which is that we tend to go under where the community is on a lot of cards. The community is much more optimistic than us.
Well, I mean, it seemed to line up with what Jesse thought. What do you think, Jesse?
I'm just going to enjoy being right.
All right. So next up is the other Luke Skywalker figure, Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker. Now, in Season 1, we dropped his cost from what was it, 12 to 11?
12 to 11.
Yeah. And it went through with the vote. You know, as a member of the committee at the time, we were still trying to figure out what we wanted to do. This is one of those cards that I wish we would have pulled back from the vote and said, no, let's try this again some other season. Because at 11 points, he still doesn't provide the Queen level impact on the game that he should at that point cost. Deflect is a fantastic ability. 16 health is awesome. Having the evade, the static evade is awesome. The white die always lets you down. You know, he may roll a couple of dodges and stay alive the entire game, but more than likely you're gonna strike out on the dodges and he's dead after 4 attacks from normal figures and maybe 3 attacks from hunters. So you're not getting that much value with deflect if he can't survive. He was definitely designed in an era where the Stormtroopers, the elite Stormtroopers, were the like the focus or the standard of all card design. And since Jabba's Realm came out and that standard changed, he's just been left in the dust. So he is solidly C tier for me. In Season 5, we've reduced him down to, 10, I think? And I haven't had a chance to play him at 10 to see if he feels better at 10. But to me, at 11, he's C. Thoughts on that, gentlemen?
I agree. I think it's still true at 10. It's not just his defense that's too inconsistent, his attack is. How often whenever I run him, it seems I run in and roll 4 surges and do 2 damage, pierce 3, and go, okay. That's that attack done then.
Right.
Next attack, 2 damage, pierce 3. Okay. Oh, and then you shoot at me and Luke's dead in 3 attacks. Great. You'll go. So yeah, I don't think making him 10 changes any of that.
Yeah, I played him a lot in Amigos, and I think he's very fun. I would put him in B tier because, in my experience, he'll get that. He doesn't roll triple surges all that often, but when it does, it hurts. It hurts a lot. So I think, yeah, I think he's B tier just from my personal experience. But I'm sure the community will probably. Well, actually, the community seems to overvalue based on the general thing. So I think I'll probably be along with the community here and B.
Okay, cool.
Oh, I'm gonna do the Price is Right thing and just bid $1 more than Jake and say A tier.
Ooh.
I remember when Luke was such a boogeyman in the game. Like my first regional experience was everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, how are you gonna beat Luke? How are you gonna beat Luke?" I mean, my answer was weak ways, which worked for me, but no, I still lost to Luke in top 4. So yeah.
He was never really a thing in the UK other than Luke Sykes taking him, and if Luke Sykes was taking him, you were losing anyway, so it didn't make any difference.
Okay, so the community has decided to put him at B tier. Interesting enough, Jedi Luke has a lower average tier score than Hero Luke. Hero Luke is scored a 2.130, and Jedi Luke scored a 1.773. So the community values Hero Luke, and I guess his reroll for everybody more than the Jedi. But they also value them more than those of us that put them in C tier.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that I disagree that Hero Luke is better than Jedi Luke.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
Yeah, I don't think Hero Luke's great either, by the way. But I think because he buffs everyone else around him a lot more, deflect just doesn't do enough, and his attack doesn't do enough for it to be worth 10 points. The Hero Luke can get 7 points a bit easier. So, yeah.
All right.
Next on our list is Koton Philaro. Jake, tell us about Koton.
Koton Philaro not played in FFG and is not played in IACP. I don't think I need to say much more. The point drop didn't do much for her, and I think we need to revisit her like we've revisited some of the other Season 1 changes. and therefore I will put her in a solid D tier, where she stays from FFG.
Any disagreement, gentlemen?
Not really.
I wish I could.
I mean, it sucks so much that her abilities don't apply to herself. She can't give herself tokens and use them to remove a dodge. She has to do it to someone else nearby. You have to keep her near someone attacking on the front line, and you don't want her near the front line because she'll die. So she's difficult to use, and I don't think she gets that much benefit. So D is fair.
When she was released... I'm sorry, go ahead, Jesse.
I was just saying, I'm looking forward to the next version of her where she becomes a friendly figure of herself. Where she puts in the work to really value herself highly enough to give herself those buffs.
you take some personal care, Koton. Take time for yourself.
Right. Or she gets like a plastic Luke Skywalker mask and gives professional to everybody within 3.
So, not the biggest spoiler. We probably will be taking a look at Koton in the future to give her a elite card. And yeah, I'm inclined to agree with everybody that Koton is our first dumpster character. However, the community put her in C. And I wonder if they put her in C, and this is kind of the failings of the survey that I put out, because I didn't give a chance to let everybody kind of talk about why they were ranking them. I just got rankings. But I wonder if they put them in C because Koton unchanged was dumpster, but now she's 1 point less, so she's kind of out of the dumpster? I don't know.
I mean, I think it might be that the aggregation, like 0.5 would mean that vast majority of people put her in D, or at least half the people of D versus C. If anybody throws in a B, then she'll just get averaged up into C probably.
Oh,
so, like,
well, actually, I can tell you
what was the point score there.
I can
median instead.
So 21 participants. I actually broke all these down. So that I can see how many people voted at each tier. And so out of 21 people who actually put a rating on Koton, 5 people put her at D tier, 9 at C, 6 at B, and 1 at A.
Huh.
The one person who put her at A, I need to talk to, so I can make a list with her and rip and tear this league up.
Apparently.
Why is the person who put her at A not running her in the testing league or in any of the tournaments then?
Maybe it's secret tech. They're waiting for our next competitive.
Please stand up.
Yeah.
The person who voted her A tier, please stand up.
They're just trying to mess with the data, I think.
I don't know. There's not like I looked at the overall vote counts of stuff, and it didn't look like we had a whole lot of troll votes or any troll votes at all. Like everything that I could see people putting in the dumpster tier had a vote or two in the dumpster tier. The things that I thought that were S tier, that could be considered S tier, had a vote or two in the S tier. There really wasn't a character in these votes that stood out as, oh, people are just messing with us. So somebody really, really likes Koton, and we are going to find that person. Next up is Leia Organa. Ollie, will you please tell us about Leia?
So Leia dropped from 8 points to 7 points. I think she's okay, not great. I'd probably say C tier because I don't think she pairs very well with a lot of more recent Rebel lists. She doesn't go very well with Jedis. She because she wants to be far from the action because she's very squishy. But to use her ability, she needs to be nearby to use her other attackers. Battlefield leadership targets the same figure, which I don't think helps. If you could target a different figure with it, that'd be a lot better. And I just think there's better options at 7 points. There's better spies, better damage dealers if you're going for damage dealers. Yeah, and her command card is awful.
She has a command card?
Jesse, anything else?
I gotta agree with all that.
Yeah. Yeah, this is another one of those cards where season 1 I wish that we would pull back and reevaluate, and maybe in the future if the community wants us to do it, we could tweak her a little bit. Battlefield leadership seems so powerful when you look at it with Han, but with almost every other Rebel unique, it does not work well.
I don't think
mainly because her attack is so wonky.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, blue, yellow, even with the +2, even with the recover, she just doesn't throw enough. Even I mean, when she was like, back in the Wonder Twins meta, when you were running up against more swarms and stuff, that was fine. But now she suffers the same problem as Hero Luke. She just can't push enough to get through modern unique defenses.
Mm-hmm. I was just saying, I don't think she works well with Han, because in order to use battlefield leadership, you need Han to have line of sight to your target, and you've left Han out, in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And that's not how you want to play Han if you want Han to survive.
Right. Right. Or, yeah, the only way that you would be able to do it is if you did like an end around thing where you left Han out and you started around with Leia, and then hopefully move Han back before he gets walloped. So
yeah, and that's a lot of risk to take. You're probably burning your on the lamb to do that. Right.
So C tier is what we are all going with here. Jake, any thoughts on that?
Agreed.
Alrighty. The community put her at B tier. And barely at B tier.
Oh.
The cutoff line for B tier is 1.5. She scored a 1.522.
Oh, so she's just over the line there.
Yep.
Who voted A to bring her over?
There's 2 people that voted her A. Yeah. All right, next up.
Okay.
Is the Elite Wookiee Warriors. Jesse.
All right, these guys got a point drop from 11 to 9, and the individual figures dropped to 5. Which was our new Fury of Kashyyyk out when we did the survey?
Well, we instructed our community to not consider cards that were in season 5. So Fury of Kashyyyk would have been season 5.
All right, solid D tier on this one, I think.
Yeah,
they really need some help.
Yeah, everybody takes a look at that health and gets grand ideas with it, and you just don't. They just, even with that amount of health, even with the black defense die, they just don't live. They don't live long enough, and they don't do enough damage while they're alive. I mean, they're just still way behind the curve. With the Fury of Kashyyyk card that we have out in season 5, they're a bit better, but we're still collecting data on that.
Right, and they're obnoxious to kill, but even if you don't kill them, they're not going to be doing as much damage as... they're not going to be doing enough damage to really make you feel the hurt on not being able to kill them.
Well, trying to find the card in our tier list here. Did I not pull it in? Anyway, our community put them in B tier. So I have a feeling that when our community voted here, they did not they did not think about did consider the Fury of Kashyyyk changes that we did in Season 5.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Right, which Fury of Kashyyyk got nerfed since this poll was out too, so...
Mm-hmm.
With Fury of Kashyyyk, I think B is fair, but without it, they're awful.
Yeah. Well, even, like I said, we're still collecting data on Fury of Kashyyyk. We've gotten a lot of feedback where somebody gets really walloped with them, and then we get feedback where they do better, but they don't wallop. And so I wonder if a lot of that is still dice variance or what. And so we're still evaluating it. For those of you that know, there's an attachment card called Fury of Kashyyyk that comes with the Elite Wookiee Warriors pack. In Season 5, we changed it, made it a little bit more powerful, and that it could be used for multiple sets of Wookiees. And we've gotten some positive feedback on it, and then we've also gotten some concerns that it might be a little bit overpowered, and we're still evaluating it. But B tier, that is very generous from our community. It's especially generous without considering the Fury of Kashyyyk. So next up are my precious babies, and I'm glad that I got assigned this card. The Elite Echo-based Trooper. Let me pull up the card here, and I will tell you about them. They got a point drop from 8 deployment points to 7 deployment points in Season 1. Made no other changes to the card. A little bit better, still not playable. They are a solid C tier to me. They're not completely dumpster because of frontline and combat suit, but it's just so hard to get anything out of them. At least at their point cost of 7-4, having 8 hit points with the combat suit pierce reduction lets them kind of impact controlling control points on the board occasionally, but they're still not effective units. So I personally feel like they're C. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
I think you're correct. They've got okay ability, pretty good abilities. Just they're not as good as, say, a Jet Trooper at the same point cost. So I think C is fair.
I think they're B personally because I enjoyed using them back when they were back in FFG version, and just having it 1 point less just makes it a little bit better. I enjoy them. I'm going to keep them in B tier, but I know that I'm probably in the minority of the steering committee here. I think that they're pretty beefy for their cost, and Rebels doesn't have access to that as much, especially not in the 7-point area.
That's true. Jesse?
I think Jesse's been frozen for the last, 5 minutes.
Am I not moving?
You
I
are
see
moving
ya.
for me.
Okay.
I see you and hear you, Jesse.
I did watch my connection dip.
I don't. I'm going to refresh.
Oh God, he's gone.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna solidly run the middle ground there. I appreciate that Jake likes them because they're not very flashy. They're not a very visually exciting unit to look and read the card, but they can do solid work, and that's respectable.
Right.
You could paint them bright colors.
to make them more flashy.
Right, just put a bunch of LEDs in there, have them strobe around the board.
Yeah.
Elite
Right,
Echo
get those-
Rave
This is
the name of
Troopers.
the. Just want to
Full
start a
psychological
nightclub
game
called
there.
Echo Base just to get these guys just to get it working.
I love it.
Well, our community also agrees that we need to add some strobe lights and some pounding bass because they put them in C tier. So that seemed to line up with almost all of us. I feel like I personally want these guys to be good. They are, when I think of the way that I grew up, when I thought of Rebel Troopers, I thought of Echo Base Troopers because Empire Strike Back was like the first Star Wars movie that I was old enough to understand, and so my commitment to them is unwavering. And when one day they will be better. That is the IACP Chris Emmick promise right there. Okay, next up.
Yeah.
We have Dialla Passel. Now this is a change in what we've done in Season 1. We actually designed a brand new card for her. And I will let Jake take you through the process of how Dialla is different.
All right. Well, Dialla, we made a fair amount of changes to, and actually, the one that we put out in Season 1 is different than the changes we made to her again in Season 2. But I think that change was just adding a little bit more health.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we made her more in line with what her campaign figure did, where she's a powerhouse in campaign, and she's a powerhouse in skirmish now too. I put her in solid A tier. In Jedi list, she's amazing. In Brawler list, she's pretty damn good to start parting blows. So I'm gonna give her a solid A tier.
Jesse, your thoughts?
I'll agree with that. Anybody that can move somebody else around is something that can be used dangerously. A tier.
Ollie?
Yeah, I agree. A tier. She's great with brawlers, especially since she can run back out once she's shoved them out of the way. Good figure. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really thrilled that the steering committee took the chance to change a card like this, and it was so well received with the community that it opened up a whole new design area for us. And so she is a very personal favorite of mine. And she is very solidly A tier. We don't see her used a whole lot in modern, like in the last couple of seasons. Just because everybody's just more, I guess, focused to the newer changes that we make. But I guarantee you, if somebody wants to win something important, they're going to be solidly looking at Dialla as a piece. And our community agrees and put her at A tier as well. But not, very solidly in A tier. Her composite score was 2.883.
So on the lower side of A tier. I'd have expected it to be closer to S than...
Yeah, I was expecting it to be a little bit closer to S too. All right, next up is the Elite Rebel Trooper. Like the Elite Stormtroopers, we made a change to them. Oliver, will you run through that?
Yeah, so we took them down from 9 points to 7 points. And if you thought I didn't like Elite Stormtroopers, you haven't seen me about Elite Rebel Troopers. These are D-tier. They're terrible attack. Their ability is against how you want to play with troopers, because you have to leave them stood still, and they've not got enough health to be able to stand still. So if you leave them there to get the focus or the reroll, they're going to get shot and killed before they get to use the other ability. So these are D-tier.
Yes.
Jesse?
Yep, I think we covered it.
Okay. I'm going to break with the group here, and I'm going to say that they're C tier. And there's only one reason why. I played against Daniel Taylor when he ran seven cost deployment cost 7 Rebel troopers, and he was able on the map that we played. It was the Coruscant back alleys map, and he was able to get them into a position where I had to deal with them. And once they were able to get aim in their attacks, they were nasty. Not even, like, he wouldn't, I don't even remember if he used get into position to focus them up or not. He just left them out where I either had to deal with them or ignored them. And I tried ignoring them, and that was the wrong choice. So
I think that's a perfect storm because that's a good map for them. There's a lot of corners that they can hang off of.
Yep.
And also Daniel Taylor.
Yes.
So I think that was a perfect storm where your results will vary. Not even may vary. Your results will vary.
And admittedly, I'm not the best player in the world either. So, but that was, that was a learning because I thought, just statistically looking at the Rebel troopers, I thought there's just no way that they have any value at all. He showed me that they could have value. That's the only reason why I put them in C. They need more. They need a lot more. And hopefully we'll be able to get to that sometime. The community put them at C tier. Not dumpster. Gentlemen, your thoughts on that?
How close to dumpster were they?
Okay. Very close.
Because the threshold to get into dumpster is really low.
Right. So the dumpster threshold is 0.5 composite score, and they have a 0.826. I see.
Did anyone put them above C?
Nope. That puts them in C.
Did anybody vote to put them above C?
There was one B.
Oh, even the optimistic community doesn't like them.
Yeah. So that's a very, very interesting score. Again, I wonder if some of our voters took a look at these cards and said, well, their unchanged versions are dumpster tier, but this is better. Therefore, it has to be C. I wonder if that's part of the thought process for them. I don't think I have this in my show notes, but we'll go ahead and do the Elite Probe Droid. Jesse, tell us about the Probe Droid.
Sure. This fun, friendly figure got reduced in points from 5 to 4. So for 4 points, you can drive this directly into your opponent's face and then blow it up.
I've ran the math, and the Probe Droid has the best attack for a 4-point figure in the Imperial faction. So I think, but they don't have as much synergy as, say, the Death Troopers or the 7 and 8-point troopers at 4 cost each. But for a single figure, they have the best attack in the faction at their point cost, so I think they're solid A tier.
And then you get to blow
Sorry, I didn't mean to. I get really excited about Probe Droids. I didn't mean to run right in front of you.
You ran up and just blew up all over my my comments, which is, I think, a very Probe Droid thing to do.
Jesse, where would you put them?
Well, now hearing that apparently they are mathematically the best attacker in the Imperial faction for 4 points, I'll say B tier.
Ollie, would you agree with that?
Say C?
I'm not going to say C. No, I think they're B/A. I think they are very robust in attack. a little bit fragile, maybe, to be A. I know they only cost 4 points, but they're so easily one-shotted, even in Imperial, that I don't think they can be quite A. And self-destruct, if it was triggered whenever they got destroyed, that might make them A.
Yeah, I'm with you, Ollie. I think what makes them B is their attack, their ability to attack and get the kind of damage out of their attack. The Surge for Pierce 2, Surge for +2 with blue, yellow, yellow. You're triggering both of those abilities most of the time. So you're going to get a solid hit out of them. And then if your opponent ignores them, then you run them up and surprise them with the self-destruct. They're just barely off the A tier for me because there's just not enough good attacking cards for droids. If there was a little bit more oomph that you could apply with a droid card within seasons 1 to 4, I would consider them A tier at that point. And our community put them at B tier. So they agree with most of us about the usability and the playability, and don't and also feel like that they're actually kind of middle of the road with where they're at in B tier. They got a 1.958 composite score, so that's solidly in between the B tier and C tier cutoff. Alrighty. And then I forgot to put on our show notes the Elite Wing Guard. So I'll take them real quick. I'm sorry, Jesse, you were saying something?
Well, I them being forgotten, I think, is very on point.
Yep. So the Wing Guard also, like, in the middle of season 1, I think we had reduced the cost of the Elite Stormtroopers, and the community went, well, why not the Rebel Troopers and the Wing Guard too? Let's try those out. And so we were like, all right, sure. So we threw those in, and then the community was like, who's a Wing Guard? So it never really made an impact. We reduced their cost from deployment costs from 9 to 7, and their abilities are just so wonky that is so difficult to trigger. Really until this past season, season 5, the season that we're in right now, where we've kind of strengthened more of the strain play, is about the only time that our players have been kind of looking at Wing Guard at this cost, and even then they're not played very often. These are dumpster tier. And
agreed.
Yeah, I don't think we need to have a whole lot of any other thoughts on that, guys. I'll open it up.
Worse than the Rebel Troopers.
I was able to once use Wing Guard as anti-hunter tech to strain someone and then play bodyguard to eat a couple on declare cards.
I looked into that when I ran a regular Stormtrooper swarm back in the Hunter meta, and there were games when that happened, and there were a lot more games when they all died.
Right. Well, that was my problem. Like if I'm not playing hunters against hunters, I've made a bad choice, and if anything goes wrong, I've ended up just kind of eating blaster bolts, and the people they were supposed to be protecting are dead, and I'm just left with Wing Guard, and that's not a good way to live.
Yep.
I can say that FFG Wing Guards at 9 did win a regional in Fargo. Tim Bloom, former Twin Troopers host, he pulled it off with a Bosk and Wing Guards list in I believe it was 8-person tournament in Fargo Regionals 2016. So they can be good if you're in a small tournament against not the best players, which I don't think anybody at that tournament was World's tier at that time. So yeah, it would. Otherwise, D tier, dumpster, get rid of them.
Yeah. The community says C tier, but barely. 0.609. Cutoff was 0.5.
Dang.
And again, I wonder, like, there are no votes for A. There's actually 5 votes for B. Now those are the people I want to talk to. And maybe the message of consider these cards outside of season 5 was lost. But we have 14 votes for D tier out of 23 total votes. So
I don't think under duress makes them significantly better, though, so I still don't understand.
Yeah.
But okay.
Well, hopefully our confusion here will open up some conversation on our different communication channels, the Zion's Finest Slack, and our IACP Discord, and the Reddit. The IACP Reddit pages. So if you guys highly voted for Wingard and Koton, contact us. We would love to have a conversation with you about it.